And also, I think there's a big problem in Africa. I don't know about South Africa, the price of the internet or the price of airtime, but in most part of the continent, there's a big issue with access to proper connectivity. I don't know about Kenya, but I mean, Kenya is pretty much ahead of the whole curve with the M-Pesa situation. So I don't know, maybe your price and the airtime is maybe cheaper. But for example, my country, Central African Republic, we have, I think, the second most expensive internet in the world, I think. For all the, I can't remember, but yeah, it's crazy. Greg, maybe you want to, maybe you definitely have some intel on when it comes to these aspects of things, I think, or maybe some information you may be able to share with us. As far as like the way the telecoms are not really facilitating access, because if the youth as creatives could access even with more ease the internet, it would be so much better.
Yeah. Look, I mean, there's a couple of things that we have to think about here. First is to understand, what drives these telecoms, and and who are the people involved, and what's the ranking. And I know that this sounds like a long-winded thing, but when you think about the different people at different levels in these companies, each of them have different goals, and half the time, depending on who you're talking to, you're talking to someone who's wanting to reach their targets, and if you don't understand what their targets are, your proposal or whatever you're trying to work on is not is not going to meet their favor. And people are about themselves, So if you're an executive, at a company, your targets are the most important. Nothing else matters, and unless people bring to you concepts that work for you to achieve your targets, you are not engaging with them. So we need to educate ourselves around, what is it that keeps a telecoms executive awake at night? What are their issues? So that's one. The other thing we then have to do is then say, how is what I do relevant, to people across, the and I'll call it investing community for just broadly, but like brands and marketers. What are they looking for, and can I give them what they're looking for? And it's very important to answer that question, as well, because if you can't go to someone with something that you want, then you find it difficult to deal with them. So very important to be aware of that. But then adjacent to that, right, there has to be a spirit of activism that the industry adopts to challenge, how corporates behave, because at the end of the day, we are the market, and we are the people that, from a creative perspective, we are the people that are able to connect them to the many people that they want, to the many subscribers that they want. And so the subscribers have got to see value in what we do. So, Keyboard Touch, for instance, launched a campaign, a couple of years ago, to try and drive down, the rate of data. And a lot of people really stood on the sidelines, and said, well, he's crazy. What is he, what does he know? But it was a missed opportunity, because if, 3/4 of the industry had rallied behind him at that particular point, it would be in a different place now. So we missed an activism opportunity, at that point as an entire industry, to try and have a discussion with telcos to look at, where we can meet them. But having said that, a lot of telcos are starting to realize that, the first and most important thing, for acquiring customers and for building these relationships is access. So unless otherwise people access your network, you're not getting them. And for them to access your network, there's got to be things that pull them in. So from an artist's perspective, are we creating those opportunities? So for instance, do I go to a telco and say to them, I want to build a channel, and I've got my, brother in, Evo in Kenya, who's going to, give me some Kenyan content. I've got some stuff in Paris. Boddhi Satva's got a couple of things. We've built this body of work that people who like us can access on your network for free, right? However, we have this other body of work that we want people to subscribe to, and we want to, do deal X, with that particular space. It starts to become a totally different conversation, as opposed to, well, I'm an artist, cap in hand, and I'm, can you zero rate the airtime so people can access my content? You've got to be a business person in this particular instance. You've got to understand, how the telcos operate and be able to say, how do I present myself as a player and not as a person who's asking for favors? And I think that's important to understand those business models.
So you would say that it's really about positioning and which hat are you wearing that is going to be the very thing that will actually set you up for success, or for actually just being, as you said, asking favors. And nobody really gets anything by asking favors, especially if they don't really have anything to really sort of like give in counterpart as far as like, quality of work or body of work or content. Or catalog. I mean, we're talking here about, creativity and Brother Greg, I think what you're saying is very, very important, because that's one of the things that I've had to discuss with a couple of brothers when they were like, oh, why are you making so much music? And I said, well, the reality is that we don't sell music anymore. Traxsource, Beatport, those platforms, I barely have any sales. As a matter of fact, I can see it because the exposure that I'm getting from these platforms, which are obviously not handled by artificial intelligence, they're handled by human beings, is obviously, guys that obviously will work with the trends, with who is selling who is whatever. But I'm not getting that because I'm not generating those numbers anymore on those platforms. However, if I look at Spotify, I will release a song with bare minimum, almost no promotion, and I'm seeing that just because of just using my promotional tools, my Instagram channel, all my avenues, and being consistent with it, and giving people a consistent moment in time where they know that every Fridays or every 3 Fridays of the month, or 3 times or 4 times a month, there will be music from this guy coming in. They know that they can expect it, and so obviously that habit is being created, and this trust is a relationship of trust, right? It's like you're creating a trust with them because they trust you with providing them with the content that they're looking forward to hearing. And especially if you have a variety of sound, like for example, somebody like Cuebur who can produce such a variety of sounds and has as a skill set as a producer. Vanco, he has his sound. It's very niche, but it works very well, and it's the kind of sound that can generate if you work well your strategy, you can have the 40 to 50,000 streamers a month on Spotify. Ever the Myth, you have your own sound as well. You carve your own avenue, and made a name for yourself. Same thing. And I think when I'm to talk about the numbers, when I'm looking at my numbers on Spotify, just Spotify alone, I'm amazed. I'm like, dude, one of my songs had 120,000 streams in 2 months, and it's a deep house track that I did with thank you, bro. So it's like it's amazing to see that, and I'm talking about deep house, not even like that deep, that discover sound, which might be a little bit more accessible. We're talking about real Jersey deep, and so that was surprising to me. But then, in the meantime, I'll release a song in tribute to a brother from another who passed away in December last year, and the song only had 200 streams. 2 deep house songs. 2 different moments in time. I released that one in January. January, usually the streams go down, so it impacted the track. So you see, it's all about knowing, and working with the AI. So in other words, it's a dance that you're having with the artificial intelligence, because it will reward you for keeping people on their platform. So the moment you understand that as a business, that will eventually result in impacting you positively, because the platform knows automatically. Oh, Cuebur just released it. Oh, Evo, this boom, here you go. And just like Brother Greg said, then with these numbers and these information, then you can eventually go to a telco or some other companies and say, look, guys, these are the type of numbers that we as a group we generate. Altogether, it represents X amounts of thousands. How can we come together and get this product product accessible to the mass at a fair price or whatever? I mean, I don't know if that would make sense. Is it something that's viable business-wise, Greg?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so the game has changed. The game is really about numbers, but what you can do with the numbers, and how you present the numbers, right? So, there's 5 of you here who are creatives who make really amazing music and amazing content. So if I had to ask each of you, how many of you, how many followers have you got each? And let's just work roughly with numbers. If each of you have, call it 50,000, followers across a number of platforms, right? So, all of a sudden there's like 250,000 people, that you are talking to. Now, 250,000 people might sound small because there's people who have 1 million, 2 million, whatever. But you now have a 250,000 people that when you dig deep in the AI, you then have to say, how many of those people are loyal, right? Are followers of what we do. They're very consistent. They're there with us all the time. And all of a sudden you realize that you've got probably 200,000. So you take away the other 50. These are people that come and go. But there's a very strong 200,000 people that listen to you. And then you drill down further. Who are those people? What do they like? When do they respond? To your point, Boddhi, when you release this track and you get this feedback, and you release that track and you get that feedback. What are the trends? What are people liking, and at what particular time? And how do you take that information and package it to different people? Because I can tell you now, your 200,000 people from across, the diaspora, probably drink, bottled water. And I'll make an example. And, billions of rands get spent on bottled water. A lot of competition in that particular space. Is anyone, anybody even talking to those particular markets? I don't know. Can you link those people to, a variety of other content? Have you guys got friends who are doing other stuff, like chefs, or people who are interior designers, or people who are? So all of a sudden, you've got between the 5 of you, a number of other things that can plug in. Because in the end, what you want is for me as a consumer to be able to come in and say, when I get into this platform, I get to hear the music that I like, but I also get to see the furniture that I like. And by the way, I get to see the food that I like to eat. And I get, given all these other little tidbits of things that I didn't know. I didn't know about June in Paris. Now I have tickets for when lockdown opens. Value. When you're able to take all of the audiences that are talking to you, that are loyal to you now, put them all in one pot, find out the things that they like, and go and find the partners that are making things work and happen. You'll be amazed at what people are looking at. So Vanco, if you're gonna go to Paris, for instance, to play at June, and again, all 5 of you say to Air France that we want to fly 10 people from South Africa who actually want to pay for this trip and who want to go and party with me, you will be amazed at what people are wanting to buy and are wanting to experience. And here you are going to give them, a first-hand access into, June, because the people at June, and the people at June are going to give them a great time, and because that the guys at June understand the impact of this thing at a digital level and how far it goes. So when you think about collaborations, you've got to think broader than just, the product that you've developed. You've got to think about how it impacts other industries. Where else do I get links to drive this thing? And you will find that collectively you start to have a far bigger voice than when you are trying to work individually.
Hey, man, I can't even echo that. I'm echoing that with a yes. 100%, 100%. Evil. I see. I see you breeding dogs, right? You have is
yeah.
that a business that you're running?
Yes, it's a passion and also a business, man. Yeah, yeah.
So
I
for
breed
example,
dogs.
that community, for example, right? Isn't that, for example, a community to be tapped into, for example, as far as potential, streamers and consumers of your work?
Indeed, indeed, it is. But just to touch a bit on what we were talking about, it's a bit tougher here in Kenya
Okay.
because it's the fact is that we can't still access things like Spotify. You know,
Oh, that's true.
we,
That's true.
yeah, our region has been really isolated in a way, or not really considered, you could say. Most Kenyans use VPN, to access Spotify, Pandora, name it, all these other platforms. So it's been quite. I think a lot of creatives here in Kenya struggle to double in the international scene because access to these very things are tough, and now being able to tap into the people like you're saying, the dog community, it becomes a bit tough, because now you have to use terrestrial means